The UNSS Dauntless was dying. It was a slow, ugly death, marked by the groans of twisting metal and the sharp smell of burning wires. Captain Lee J. felt every shudder through the frame of his command chair. On the main screen, the blackness of space was lit by the cruel green fire of Krail plasma bolts. The enemy ships were like sharp pieces of broken glass, moving silently and with terrible purpose. Behind the Dauntless, a handful of bulky civilian colony ships, their engines glowing with desperate light, tried to run. Shield status? Jay's voice was calm. A flak rock and a raging river. Commander Park Mi-young, her fingers dancing over her tactical console, didn't look up. 30% on the port side. The starboard shield generator is gone, Captain. We have a hull breach on decks 7 through 9. A new impact rocked the bridge. A console to Jay's left exploded in sparks. A young officer cried out, clutching a burned arm. Medic Choi Hana rushed over from her station, her face pale, but her hands steady. They are trying to push us away from the refugee jump point, Mi-young said, her dark eyes scanning the data. The cruiser, the big one, is moving to intercept the lead colony ship, the Gyeongbok. Jay clenched his jaw. The Gyeongbok carried over 2,000 souls. Families, children, the last of the Serpentis colony. He had promised them safe passage. A promise that was turning to dust around him. Kim Tae-seok, Jay said, opening a channel to engineering. I need power to the main thrusters. Just for 1 minute. Can you give me that? The voice that came back was rough, filled with static and exhaustion. Captain, the main plasma conduit is cracked. If I push the thrusters, it will blow and take half the lower deck with it. We're on borrowed time as it is. Jay closed his eyes for a second. He could see the faces of the people on the Gyeongbok. He saw his own daughter's face, lost to a Krail raid on Mars years ago. The same cold anger settled in his stomach, hard and heavy. Then we borrow a little more, engineer, Jay said. Mi-young, target their lead cruiser with all remaining forward torpedoes. Aim for its engine array. We don't need to kill it. We just need to make it stumble. Mi-young nodded, her mouth a thin line. Aye, Captain. Locking on. The Dauntless was an old Orion-class battleship. Her armor was patched, her weapons outdated. But her crew was the best humanity had left. They fired their last 6 torpedoes. The projectiles, bright points of light, shot towards the Krail cruiser. 4 were shot down by defensive fire. 1 missed. The last one struck the cruiser's lower engine housing, sending a gout of flame and debris into the void. The cruiser's pursuit slowed, its course turning erratic. A cheer went up on the bridge, but it was short-lived. The other Krail ships, seeing their leader damaged, focused their fury on the Dauntless. Incoming. Mi-young shouted. The world turned green. Plasma bolts hammered the ship. The lights died, replaced by the red glow of emergency strips. The artificial gravity flickered, making everyone sway. Report. Jay coughed, smoke filling the bridge. Direct hits on decks 2 and 5. Life support is failing on the port side. Main power is offline. We are on batteries, Mi-young said, her voice tight. The Gyeongbok and the others are reaching the jump point. They are starting their calculations. It was a small victory. It was all they would get. A new face appeared on Jay's personal screen. It was Overseer Vex. His skin was a mottled gray. His eyes large and black like an insect's. He wore the severe black and silver armor of the Krail Command. Captain Lee J. Vex said, his voice a synthetic rasp. Your defiance is noted. And pointless. Your ship is dead. Your people will be extinct within the cycle. Surrender the remaining crew, and their end will be quick. Jay looked at the alien face. He felt no hate in that moment, only a deep, cold tiredness. "We don't surrender," he said quietly. "We never have." Vex tilted his head. "A meaningless tradition. Watch, then, as we finish the work." The screen went dark. Outside, Jay saw the damaged Krail cruiser turning its primary weapon, a massive plasma cannon, towards the Gyeongbok. The colony ship was moving, but it was slow, a giant compared to the warships. "He's going to fire on them before they can jump," Mi Young whispered, horror in her voice. Jay stood up. His body ached. "All hands," he said, his voice carrying through the broken ship on the emergency channel. "This is the captain. Abandon ship. Get to the escape pods and the shuttles. This is not a request. It is your final order." He looked at Mi Young, at Tae Siak's face on the screen, at young Choi Hana helping the wounded officer. "You have 5 minutes. Go, now." The bridge crew hesitated for only a second. Then training took over. They moved, gathering data chips, helping each other to the exits. Mi Young stayed for a moment, her eyes meeting Jay's. "Captain, you must come with us," she said. He shook his head. "Someone has to keep the lights on long enough for you to get clear. Someone has to talk to him." He nodded towards where Vex's ship would be. "Go, Commander." "That's an order." Mi Young's jaw tightened. She saluted, a sharp, perfect motion, then turned and ran. Jay was alone on the bridge. The only sounds were the creak of dying metal and the hiss of escaping air. He walked slowly to the main communications panel. He opened a channel on all frequencies, a broadcast that would echo through the system. "This is Captain Lee Jay of the United Nations Starship Dauntless," he said, his voice filling the empty room. "To the Krail Empire. You may break this ship. You may break this body. But you will not break the idea of us. We are scattered. We are weak. But we remember. And as long as one of us remembers, we will come back." He took a deep breath, looking at the image of the Krail cruiser, its cannon glowing with building green energy. "To any human who can hear this," he continued, his voice softening, "do not look for us in the ruins. Look for us in the dark between the stars. We are there. We are waiting. Tell them. Tell them we held the line." He cut the transmission. On the screen, he saw the small, bright dots of escape pods and 2 shuttles shooting away from the Dauntless. Heading away from the battle, towards the dark edge of the system, where a large, silent asteroid field drifted, the Krail cruiser fired. A beam of emerald energy, thick as a city tower, lanced towards the Gyeongbok. Jay did the only thing he could. With the last of the battery power, he fired the Dauntless's maneuvering thrusters. The dying ship, a kilometer-long monument of scarred metal, slid sideways. It placed itself directly in the path of the killing beam. The plasma hit the Dauntless amidships. For a moment, the old warship held, its skeleton resisting. Then, with a silent, blossoming flower of white light, the fusion reactor in its heart went critical. The explosion was immense. It tore the Dauntless into 1,000,000 glowing pieces. The shockwave rattled the fleeing shuttles and washed over the Krail ships. It also traveled outwards, a ripple in space. Crossing thousands of kilometers in seconds. It reached the asteroid field at the system's edge. It washed over a particularly large, dark asteroid, covered in 1,000,000 years of cosmic ice and dust. The shockwave did little to the rock itself, but deep within it, buried under kilometers of stone, a sensor array of crystalline and metal, dormant for epochs, registered a specific energy signature. It was the unique fusion plasma profile of a Terran military reactor in catastrophic failure, a signature programmed into its memory 1,000 years ago, a trigger dot in the deep, cold, artificial cave within the asteroid. A single light, blue and faint, pulsed once. Then again, and then it stayed on. The shuttle named Jeonju tumbled through the dark. Its engines were dead, killed by a piece of shrapnel from the Dauntless. Only the emergency battery power kept the air circulating and the heat on, and that was fading fast. Inside, the light was a dim red. 12 people sat strapped in, listening to the silence. Commander Park Mi-young was in the pilot's seat, her hands gripping the dead controls. She checked the scanner for the 100th time. Nothing but the fading energy cloud where their home had been. The Krail ships were gathering again, like vultures after a disturbance. They would start hunting for survivors soon. "We are drifting on our last momentum," she said, her voice loud in the quiet. "We need a plan." In the co-pilot's chair, Kim Tae-seok worked on a handheld panel, trying to get any system to respond. His face was smeared with grease, and his uniform was torn at the shoulder. "The plan is we don't freeze or suffocate. Options are thin. No engine means no jump. No beacon means no one will find us." From the back, Medic Choi Hana spoke up. Her voice was young but steady. "Life support is at 18%. The cold is already coming in." Mi-young closed her eyes. This was not how it was supposed to end. Not in a silent, dark coffin. She thought of Captain J, placing his ship between the Krail and the civilians. She would not let his sacrifice be for nothing. "There," Tae-seok said suddenly. He pointed at his screen. A faint, almost invisible reading. Gravitational anomaly. Very small, but it's there. At the edge of the asteroid field. It's pulling us, just a little. Mi-young looked. It was a large asteroid, one of millions. It looked no different from the others on the visual screen. "What is it?" "I don't know. But it's not natural. Natural rocks don't have a gravity field that precise. It's like a gentle net." He looked at her, a spark in his exhausted eyes. "It's our only vector." Mi-young made the decision. "Okay, we ride the pull. Use the attitude thrusters to keep us oriented. If it's a net, let's see what's casting it." For an hour, they drifted. The Krail did not follow. To them, the shuttle was just another piece of debris. The large asteroid grew bigger in the viewport. It was dark gray, lumpy, covered in craters and ice. It looked utterly dead. Then, as they came within a few kilometers, things changed. A section of the rock, smoother than the rest, began to glow. A soft, blue geometric pattern lit up beneath the dust. It was a perfect circle, 500 meters across. "What is that?" Hana whispered, pressing her face to a port. The circle split into segments, like the petals of a metal flower. They folded back silently into the rock. Behind it was not more rock, but a deep black opening. A welcoming and terrifying mouth. "It's a hangar," Tae-seok said, amazed. Their shuttle, caught in the now stronger artificial gravity, drifted smoothly into the opening. The moment they were inside, the petals closed behind them, sealing them in darkness. Then, bright white lights flared on from high above, illuminating a vast space dock. It was a docking bay, but unlike any they had ever seen. The walls and floor were made of a smooth, pearly white metal that seemed to glow from within. The ceiling was lost in shadow. The air hissed, and the temperature rose rapidly to something comfortable. The gravity felt normal, like Earth. A low hum filled the shuttle as its systems were scanned by invisible beams. Then a voice spoke. It came from everywhere and nowhere. It was calm, clear, and spoke in perfectly accented Korean. "Welcome. Biological signature confirmed. Terran origin. Welcome to Long Watch Vault Sigma." Mi-young unlocked her harness, her hand on her sidearm. "Identify yourself." "I am the custodian, a Class 7 autonomous intelligence tasked with the maintenance and security of this vault." The voice was neither male nor female. It was simply calm. "What is this place?" Tae-seok asked, his nose almost pressed to the canopy. "This is a preservation facility. Its primary occupant is the UNSS Morning Star. You have triggered the revival protocol." Mi-young exchanged a look with Tae-seok. UNSS? That prefix hadn't been used in centuries. What is the Morning Star? The UNSS Morning Star is a sovereign-class planet breaker, a capital warship of the first expansion era. It was placed in hibernation here 1,241 years ago. Following the Resolution Accords, the words hung in the air. Planet breaker. Mi-young felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. Why was it hidden? The sovereign-class vessels were deemed too powerful for continued service. Their existence was purged from common historical record to prevent destabilization and future arms races. The protocol for awakening was specific. Sleep until a moment of human extinction-level crisis is detected. The custodian paused. The collapse of the last dedicated human warship fulfills the final criterion. The scenario is now active. Captain Lee Jae's last words echoed in Mi-young's head. Tell them we held the line. Had he somehow known? Are there others alive here? Choi Hana asked. No biological life forms have been in this vault since its sealing. However, there is one human life sign currently in the medical bay. He was recovered from the debris field by automated drones. He is in critical but stable condition. Mi-young's heart jumped. Who? Identity matches Captain Lee Jae, commanding officer of the UNSS Dauntless. For the first time since the battle, Mi-young felt something like hope, sharp and painful. Take us to him, now. The side of the shuttle opened with a sigh, not by their control, but by the vault itself. A ramp extended to the flawless floor. As they stepped out, a small floating platform glided to a stop before them. It had no rails. Please step onto the transit disc. I will take you to the medical bay. They stepped on. The disc moved silently, carrying them across the enormous hangar. They passed other platforms holding strange, sleek fighters and landers, all covered in a faint sheen of protective energy. Everything was clean, silent, and waiting. The medical bay was a room of soft light. In the center, on a table that seemed to be made of liquid light, lay Captain Lee Jae. He was clean, his uniform gone, replaced by a simple gray medical suit. His eyes were closed. Dozens of tiny pinpricks of light moved over his body. Scanning and healing. Mi-young rushed to his side, ignoring the technology. His chest was rising and falling steadily. He suffered massive trauma, vacuum exposure, and radiation poisoning. The custodian's voice explained. Repair is at 70%. He will live. Tae-seok was not looking at the captain. He was staring at a large, curved wall at the end of the bay. As they watched, it became transparent, a huge window. Outside the window was not the hangar, but another, even larger space. And in that space, resting in a cradle of gentle blue energy fields, was a ship dot. It was like a silver dagger, polished and perfect. It was easily 20 times the size of the Dauntless. Its lines were clean and fierce, built for war in a way that seemed both beautiful and horrible. Along its sides were rows of what could only be weapon ports. At its nose was a single, massive crystal lens that glowed with a deep blue light. The Unzi Morning Star, the custodian said. They stood in silence, looking at the ancient giant. It was not just a ship. It was a ghost. A weapon from a forgotten age of giants, now lying before the last survivors of a broken time. Kim Tae-seok finally spoke, his voice full of awe and fear. What do we do with it? Park Mi-young watched the tiny lights heal her captain. She looked from his face to the terrible, beautiful warship. Captain Jae had held the line with his life. Now, They had been given a new line to hold. She didn't know the answer, but for the first time, the darkness ahead had a single sharp point of light. Lee J swam up from a deep, black ocean. There was no pain. That was the first strange thing. The last thing he remembered was the blinding light, the heat, and the silence of the vacuum claiming him. He should be dead. He felt heavy, then light. Sensation returned. He was lying on something soft yet firm. The air smelled clean, like ozone after a rain. He opened his eyes. The ceiling above him was a smooth, white surface glowing with a gentle light. He turned his head. He was in a small room. Park Mi-young was asleep in a chair next to him, her head resting on her arms. Kim Tae-seok was sitting on the floor against a wall, studying a floating hologram of a complex engine schematic. Choi Hana was checking a small, silent medical device. He tried to speak. His throat was dry. A soft click came out. Mi-young's eyes snapped open. She saw him looking at her and sat up straight. "Captain, you're awake." Tae-seok scrambled to his feet. Hana came over, the device in her hand whirring softly. "Vitals are stable," she said, a smile breaking through her tiredness. "It's a miracle." "Where?" Jay managed to whisper. "Somewhere safe," Mi-young said. She helped him sit up. "Do you remember the asteroid?" Jay nodded slowly. The last sight before the blast, the dark, rocky field. It wasn't an asteroid. It's a vault. A tomb, really. She paused, choosing her words. For a ship. A very old, very powerful ship. They called it a Sovereign class. A planet breaker. The words meant nothing to him. He remembered the mission. The Gyeongbok? The refugees? Mi-young's face tightened. They made the jump. We saw them go. The Krail cruiser was damaged. You gave them the time. Relief, warm and weak, washed through him. Good. That was something. Then the rest of her sentence hit him. A ship? What ship? The Morning Star, Tae-seok said, his voice full of a strange energy. "Captain, you have to see it. The technology, it's impossible. It's like a god built a warship." A calm voice filled the room. "Captain Lei Jae, your recovery is satisfactory. My name is Custodian. I am the guardian of this facility." Jae looked around. "Show yourself." "I have no physical form. I am the vault and the ship." Jae pushed himself to the edge of the bed. His legs felt weak, but they held. "Take me to this ship." They led him out of the medical bay, down a corridor of the same smooth, glowing material. It felt more like a temple than a base. They entered a large room with a huge curved window. And there it was. Lee Jae had commanded the Dauntless for 15 years. He knew every weld, every patch, every weak point in her armor. He loved that old, tired ship. What he saw now made his breath catch. The Morning Star was vast. It was not just big. It was monumental. Its silver hull was flawless, reflecting the soft blue light of the energy cradles that held it. It was shaped for war long, sharp, and merciless. On its sides, he could see the sealed ports of weapons, whose purpose he could only guess. It was terrifyingly beautiful. It was the most dangerous thing he had ever seen. It was built in a different time, the custodian's voice explained. A time when humanity expanded quickly. There were conflicts. The Sovereign-class ships were the ultimate solution. They could end wars by ending worlds. The men and women who crewed them eventually realized what they held. They made a choice. They hid them away. They erased them from history. They left me with one instruction: sleep until the last hope is gone. Jay turned from the window, looking at the faces of his survivors, Mi-young, pragmatic and sharp, Tae-seok, already in love with the machine, young Hana, who had seen too much death. "We are not that," Jay said, his voice stronger now. "We are not those warriors. We are just the last ones left. We don't want a planet breaker. We just want a home. The Krail do not want you to have a home, Mi-young said quietly. They are still out there. They will find this. They will either take it or destroy it. And then they will hunt down the Gyeongbok and every other human ship. She is correct, the custodian said. My sensors detect a Krail recon group approaching the debris field. They are scanning systematically. They will detect the energy signature of this vault within hours. Can we run? Jay asked. Can we take this ship and just leave? The Morning Star, as drive systems, are fully operational. We can depart this system faster than any known vessel. However, the Krail will track the jump signature. They will know a power of this magnitude exists. They will dedicate their entire empire to finding it. Running now only delays the confrontation and alerts a superior enemy to a prize they cannot ignore. Jay walked back to the window. The ship looked back at him, silent and waiting. He saw the reflection of his own face, a tired man in a medical suit, wearing the weight of a dead crew. What are our other options? He asked. Option 1. We attempt to hide again. We shut down all systems and hope the rock shields us. Probability of success, low. The Krail scan is thorough. Option 2. We surrender the vault. Probability of human survival, 0. The Krail exterminate all biological witnesses after interrogation. Option 3. We awaken the Morning Star. The word awaken felt wrong to Jay. This was not a sleeping thing. It was a buried thing. A cursed thing. If we awaken it, Jay said, what then? We become the monsters we are fighting? We use a weapon that cracks planets? We become the thing our ancestors were so ashamed if they hid it? Tae-seok spoke up. Captain, we don't have to use it like that. Look at it. The power, the shields. We could just show them. We could scare them. Make them leave us alone? Can you scare a force that feels no fear? Jay asked. They see weakness as an invitation. They see strength as a challenge to be broken. Showing them this, it might just make them want it more. Then we break them first, Mi-young said, her voice cold. All eyes turned to her. Not their worlds, their fleet. The one right here. We use the ship for exactly what it was built to do. To fight. To win. To protect human lives. The Gyeongbok is out there, Captain. Others are out there. This isn't about the past. It's about the future. Our future. Silence filled the room. Jay looked at each of them. He saw the hope in Tae-seok's eyes, the fierce determination in Mi-young's, the quiet trust in Hana's. He thought of his daughter. He thought of the thousands of nameless, faceless humans hiding in the dark, waiting for a dawn that never came. The custodian's voice broke the quiet. The Krail reconnaissance vessel has entered the asteroid field. They are on a direct search pattern. They will be in scanning range in 47 minutes. Jay closed his eyes. He saw the bridge of the Dauntless breaking apart. He heard his own last message echoing in the dark. Tell them we held the line. He had held the line with a broken ship and a dying crew. Now he was being handed the power to not just hold the line, but to redraw it. He opened his eyes and looked at the ancient silver warship. Custodian, he said, his voice dry but firm. What do you need to do? A command from a recognized commanding officer. A verbal authorization code. The word is daybreak. Lee Jay took a deep breath. He was not a warrior from a grand, forgotten age. He was just a man who had lost everything but his people. He looked at Mi-young and gave a single small nod. Then he turned to the window, to the giant waiting in its cradle, and spoke the word. The word hung in the air. Daybreak. For a moment, nothing happened. Lee Jay wondered if he had been foolish, if the ancient machine had finally failed. Then a deep hum vibrated through the floor. It was not a sound heard so much as felt in the bones. The gentle blue light in the room brightened. On the other side of the great window, the cradles of energy holding the morning star flickered and vanished that the giant ship did not drop. It simply floated free. Along its silver hull, lines of white light began to glow. They spread like waking veins, from the stern to the sharp tip of the bow. The single great crystal at its nose ignited with a blue, so deep it looked like a piece of a star. "Reactor at 100%, the custodian's voice said. Still calm, but now it seemed to come from the ship itself. All systems nominal. Awakening sequence complete. The asteroid around them began to shake. On the large window, a new display appeared, showing an external view. The rocky shell that had hidden the vault for a millennium was cracking. Massive segments, each the size of a mountain, broke away and began to drift silently into the void. Sunlight from the system's distant star streamed in, touching the silver hull of the morning star for the first time in centuries. It shone with a painful, beautiful brilliance. "Captain," Mi-young said, pointing at the tactical display now forming in the air. The Krail, the recon ship, a sleek dagger-shaped vessel, had stopped its scan. It was turning towards them. It had seen the asteroid break apart. It had seen what was inside. On the bridge of the Krail ship, Overseer Vex studied the new data. His black eyes widened. The energy readings were off the scale. The object was a warship, but of a design and power signature unknown to the Empire. A prize, a threat. His orders were clear. "Open a channel," Vex rasped. "All vessels in the sector converge on my coordinates. Priority Alpha. We have located a significant human relic. Move to capture or destroy." Back in the vault, now an open hangar clinging to the side of the awakening giant, Jay felt a wave of dizziness. This was too fast. "We need to get to the bridge," he said. A transit disc appeared beside them. They stepped on. It shot forward, not out a door, but directly towards the solid wall of the vault. The wall parted like water, and they were inside a tunnel of racing light. Seconds later, they emerged onto the command deck of the Morning Star. That it was not a bridge. It was a cathedral. A vast circular space with a dome that showed a perfect view of space around them. There were no chairs, no consoles of buttons and switches. The floor was a surface of soft light. As Jay stepped onto it, a command interface rose around him, holographic displays of systems, navigation, weapons. He could see it all just by thinking. Mi-young stood nearby, her own tactical array springing to life around her. Tae-seok had an engineering schematic, his hands moving through it, his mouth open in wonder. The custodian's voice was here too, now felt in the mind as much as heard. "The Krail recon vessel is hailing us. They are demanding our surrender." Jay looked at the display. The small Krail ship hovered before them, an insect before a bird of prey. "Ignore them. Plot a course away from here." "A clear jump lane," acknowledged. The Morning Star began to move. It did not turn with thrusters. The star field on the dome simply shifted, as if the universe itself was moving around the ship. It was utterly silent, utterly smooth. Then, on the tactical screen, new signals blinked into existence. 3 more Krail ships, a light cruiser and 2 destroyers. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel, blocking the projected escape path. "They're surrounding us," Mi-young said. "The cruiser is powering weapons." Jay felt his old anger rising. They just wanted to leave. "Custodian, can we jump with them in the way? Gravity wake interference would be dangerous." "Recommendation: clear the area." The Krail cruiser fired. A familiar green plasma bolt, the kind that had killed the Dauntless, lanced across space. It struck the Morning Star as forward shield. A ripple of golden light shimmered across an invisible dome where the bolt hit. The display in front of Jay showed a tiny, almost meaningless, drop in shield energy. It immediately refilled. On the Krail cruiser, Vex watched. His weapon had done nothing. No shield flare, no hull damage, nothing. A chill touched his spine. Fire all forward batteries. Target their engines. The space between the ships lit up with green fire. Multiple plasma bolts streaked towards the morning star. The impacts created a ripple of golden light across its shield, like rain hitting a pond. It was beautiful, and it was useless. "Captain," Mi-young said, her voice tight. "They will call for more ships. They will keep attacking." Jay understood. Showing them was not enough. You could not reason with a force that only understood power. You had to demonstrate it. "Disable the cruiser," Jay said, the words ash in his mouth. "No life pods targeted, just make it stop." Acknowledged. Selecting low-yield photon lance. On the nose of the morning star, the great blue crystal glowed brighter. A thin line of coherent white light, no wider than a tree trunk, flashed out. It lasted for less than a second. It struck the Krail cruiser not on its hull, but at the precise junction between its main engine block and its primary reactor shielding. There was no explosion. The white light simply pierced through, a needle of pure energy. The cruiser's engine glow died instantly. Its weapons went dark. A cloud of coolant and atmosphere vented from the perfect, tiny hole. It was dead in space, a floating statue. The two destroyers stopped firing. The silence on the battlefield was heavier than any noise. On the Morningstar's bridge, the humans stared. One shot, one precise, surgical, devastating shot. It was not the raging, planet-breaking fury Jay had feared. It was something else, a calm, absolute superiority. Receiving a fleet-wide signal from the Krail command vessel, the custodian reported. Vex's face appeared on the dome. The arrogance was gone. His eyes showed pure, cold shock. "What are you?" He transmitted. Lee Jay stepped forward. He felt the eyes of Mi-young, Tae-seok, Hana on him. He was no longer just a captain of a lost ship. He was the voice of the giant. "We are humanity," Jay said, his voice echoing in the vast space. "You have been hunting ghosts. The hunt is over." He nodded to Mi-young. She understood. Her mind touched the tactical system. Across the hull of the Morning Star, hundreds of small panels slid open. From each, a whip-like strand of crackling energy, bright as a sun's filament, snapped out. They were the point defense network, called Starlight Whips. The two remaining Krail destroyers tried to turn to run. It was too late. The energy whips lashed out, not at the hulls, but at their weapon arrays, their sensor masts, their engine nozzles. It was like watching a master sculptor work. In seconds, both destroyers were stripped of every tool of war, left as harmless floating metal shells. The recon ship was already fleeing, jumping into faster-than-light travel the moment the whips appeared. The battle, if it could be called that, was over. It had lasted less than 2 minutes. The bridge of the Morning Star was quiet. Jay looked at the displays. 1 cruiser disabled, 2 destroyers disarmed. No lives taken, as far as he could tell. The enemy was not destroyed. They were humiliated. Tae-seok let out a long, shaking breath. It's not just a weapon. It's a message." Mi-young looked at Jay. "They will come back, with everything they have." Jay stared at the crippled cruiser on the screen. He thought of the Kraal's relentless, exterminating logic. They had just rewritten that logic. They had shown a power that did not just destroy, but chose not to. "Yes," Jay said, his voice finding a new strength. "Let them come. Let them see what waits for them in the dark. Not a ghost. A sunrise." He turned from the view of the broken Krail fleet. The ancient superwarship, now fully awake, hung in the light of a distant sun. It was no longer a relic of a shameful past. It was a shield for a possible future. The first move had been made. The game had changed forever. The silence after the battle was the loudest thing Lei Jie had ever heard. On the dome of the bridge, the view was stark. The crippled Krail cruiser drifted, a dark scar across its engine block glowing faintly from the photon lance's precision strike. The two destroyers were like stripped trees, their weapon limbs shorn away by the Morning Star's gentle, terrifying whips. There were no explosions, no expanding clouds of debris. It was a victory of absolute control, and it left Jay feeling hollow. "They're gone," Park Mi-young said, her eyes on the tactical screen. The small one jumped away. "The others? They're just waiting. Their life signs are strong." She sounded surprised. She had expected a slaughter. They all had. Kim Tae-seok ran a hand through his hair, his earlier awe now mixed with a kind of dread. "They'll call the whole fleet here. Every ship in the sector. What do we do when 100 of those cruisers show up?" Jay didn't answer immediately. He walked to the center of the bridge, the soft light of the floor illuminating his face. He looked at the ancient warship systems glowing around him, weapons that could crack worlds, shields that could shrug off an entire barrage, a drive that could outrun light itself. He had feared this power. He had feared becoming a monster. But the monster, it seemed, could show restraint. "We are not staying," Jay said finally. Mi-young looked up. "Captain, this system is a grave. The Dauntless is gone. The Krail know this location. If we stay, we force a war we cannot walk away from. A war where we would have to use all of this." He gestured at the displays of planet-breaking weaponry, still dormant, still locked away. "We came here to escape extinction, not to become exterminators." Choi Hana, who had been quietly watching from the edge of the bridge, spoke softly. "Where can we go?" "They will follow." The custodian's voice filled the space, calm as ever. "The primary mission parameter has been achieved. Survival of the commanding unit and repulsion of the immediate threat. However, a secondary function exists. The Morning Star was not merely a weapon. It was an ark of knowledge. Its quantum core contains the last complete stellar cartography of the first expansion. The locations of 17 hidden way stations, 3 forgotten colony worlds deemed unsuitable then, but perhaps habitable now, and the coordinates of the old communication relay network. A map, Captain. A map of where we came from. A map." The word hung in the air. For a generation, humanity had been running blind, its history lost, its future a desperate guess. They knew only the Krail and the dark. "Show me," Jay said. A new holograph bloomed in the center of the bridge. It was a map of the galaxy, but not the sparse, fearful one Jay knew. This one was rich with thousands of points of light. Many were dark, marked with symbols of catastrophe or abandonment. But others glowed with a soft, persistent blue. They were scattered, like seeds thrown far and wide. "These are the potential survivor loci," the custodian explained. "Based on last known colony data and energy signatures, consistent with long-term low-power habitation." As they watched the map, something else began to happen. On the communication panel, which had been silent except for the Krail channels, a faint signal light flickered. Then another, and another. "Incoming narrow-beam transmission," Mi-young reported, her voice rising in disbelief. "Source, it's from the Hercules cluster. It's a human carrier wave. Very weak." Then another light. Another one. From the Lyra sector. Just a pulsed signal. A pattern. She looked at Jay, her eyes wide. "They're responding. To us. To what we just did." The Krail had monitored all human channels for decades, easily crushing any coordinated communication. But the shock wave of the morning star as awakening, the brief, brutal demonstration of its power, had sent a ripple through more than just space. It had pulsed through every listening post, every hidden receiver, every desperate soul huddled in a bunker on a lost rock. Someone somewhere had seen a human ship stand tall, and they were reaching out. J stared at the blossoming lights on the communication panel. Each one was a voice, a survivor, a piece of his people he had thought was gone forever. The hollow feeling inside him began to fill, not with the cold pride of power, but with the warm, fragile weight of responsibility. "This is what we do," Jay said, his decision crystallizing. "We do not hide. We do not conquer. We gather." He turned to the custodian. "Plot a course for the strongest of those signals. The one with the most traffic. Maximum stealth. Can we move without them tracking us? The morning star is capable of quantum slipstream travel. It leaves no conventional wake. To the Krail, it will appear to vanish. Then do it. But first," Jay walked to the main communication array. He thought of his last transmission from the Dauntless, sent out into the void as a final act of defiance. This would be different. He opened a channel on all known human frequencies, a channel the custodian assured him the Krail could not trace or block. "This is Captain Lee J," he began, his voice steady. He saw Mi Young stand straighter, saw Tae Seok nod, saw Hana smile, a small, hopeful smile. "To any human who can hear this, you are not alone. The stories are true. We are still here, and we are coming." He paused, looking at the immense, peaceful power of the ship around him. "Do not look for us in battle. Do not wait for us in war. Look for us in the quiet places. Listen for us in the dark. We are not bringing a sword. We are bringing a shield. We are bringing a way home. Hold on. Just a little longer." He cut the transmission. The bridge was silent again, but this time the silence was full of potential. "Course is plotted," the custodian said. "The Hercules signal. It is a colony designated Hope's Respite in the old records. We can be there in 72 hours. Jay took one last look at the tactical screen, at the broken Krail ships. They were a message, too. A message that would spread through the Empire, causing fear, confusion, and doubt. Let them wonder. Let them fear the giant in the dark. The giant was no longer sleeping, and it was no longer angry. It had a purpose. Engage, Captain Lee J said. The unnamed morning star, a relic of a forgotten age of war, turned its silver bow away from the wreckage of the present. Its immense engines powered up without a sound, bending space itself. To the watching Krail on their dead ships, it simply shimmered and was gone, as if it had never been there at all. On the bridge, the starfield on the dome blurred into streaks of light. They were moving faster than any human in centuries had traveled. Lee J did not look at the weapon displays. He looked at the map, at the glowing points of blue light scattered across the galaxy. Each one was a promise. Each one was a reason. They were not the last warship. They were the first beacon, and they were going to light the way.